I'm excited to be in Soweto. I had a big interview this morning with the Sunday Times. I had an interview this morning with the Sunday Times. It's coming up in the next week or so. And we were talking about, I'm from Kimberley, so obviously that's the main city. I know people from Soweto will differ with me, but I'm from Kimberley, born and raised in Kimberley. So we're explaining to them why Kimberley, what Kimberley has contributed, not just to me, but to this country and to this continent. But anyway, when we're talking about Sunday Times, I was explaining to them that my first time when I finished matric, I came to live in Soweto. I came to live in Orlando. So that was my introduction to Johannesburg, Soweto, where I am. How was the food, by the way? Yes, I was just here for my dombolo, and I saw my dombolo, I saw stew. Did you guys get to eat some of that? How am I? Where's Tato? Tato, Osebedise, Bruaka. Osebedise. Because after talking to my dombolo, we understand that you understand us. Right? So a little bit about background about myself, just a quick, a short background. I said I'm from Kimberley. I've been to over 122 countries. I've been to every country in the continent. And I did that for an important reason, because I didn't want to go around the continent talking about telling people I'm an African when I've only been to Botswana, Mozambique. What's the other one that we go to as South Africans? Lesotho, Botswana, Swaziland. We don't count them. But at least Mozambique, you have to go a little bit farther. So Namibia here. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it with a bit of credibility. And I've learned a few things on that journey. Because I'm always asked, what's so common about us? What is there a common denominator among us? I said, of course, there's a common denominator. What you're going to learn about the continent, you are going to learn that we're a very creative people. Doesn't matter where we are in the continent. We are a very communal people, rebatu as Africans. But what you're also going to learn is that we are very hospitable. If you obey our rules, you obey our cultures, you obey our religions, you obey our laws, we welcome you anytime. And we do the same thing every country we go to. Okay, I was in Zimbabwe. Past week I was in Zimbabwe and Tanzania. When I was in Zimbabwe, they arrested me and my driver because we parked, the four wheels were inside the spot, parking. But the back of the car was in the so everybody was upset. But we are manje, where you go, you obey other people's rules. I said, exactly. You must obey the law. I paid the $53 fine because according to the Zimbabwean laws, I'm supposed to be parked. The entire car must be in the thingy. So I said, that's what we do. We're a very hospitable people, but we're also very entrepreneurial people. So I'll tell you an interesting story. So I arrive in, I arrive in Senegal. I drive all the way to Gambia. We get to the border. Then when we get to the border, they said to us, you need insurance. I said, for what? They said, you need insurance to cross over into the next country, into Gambia. I said, but our car is insured. They're like, no, you need insurance for the other side. Now it's 3, 4 in the morning. And I said, where am I going to get insurance at 4? Now, as a South African, what do you think? I said in my head, yes, batati chance. Where am I going to find insurance at 3, 4? I meet some guy. We may think he's a tout. The guy comes running to us. He says to us, I'll organize the insurance. We're like, insurance? Got 3, 4 in the morning. We follow the guy. We go into some room. We see it's dark. At 4 in the morning, 4, 5 in the morning. 4 actually, because it's dark. I see people with torches writing policies at 4 in the morning. Now, I'm South African, so I'm thinking policy for corruption. I see, now you see, this one here is not the real deal. Because that's me, I'm South African, because that's how we think, right? And then, anyway, he runs out of insurance, of policies. How can you run out of policies if they're stolen? Anyway, so we go to the next door, we wake up this guy, we find this guy, fast asleep, we wake him up, he says, mon ami, speaking French, mon ami, just attends, s'il vous plaît. Just give me time, wait a bit. So he goes out, he has to pray first, it's Muslim country, he prays and then he comes out. Then the guy sits there, I've got a picture of him in my book. I think I've got a book in the book. He's writing a policy, now it's about 4 in the morning for me. And I'm thinking, had I asked that of my people in South Africa, Bazoti, yazi uyaningela ngo-4 ekuseni. I'm not going to start anything here until 8 a.m. Nakhona must have tea, and then we move on to the work at 9 o'clock. But I learned something, because our perceptions, when we look at countries and places, we already come in with our filters. And that's how when I travel, I leave South Africa at OR Tambo, and I enter with a naked mind and an open mind. So when I arrive in the country, I do not have to look at the country through a South African filter. And that way, you are able to enjoy the country and understand it. So that experience taught me something about us as a people, that we're a very entrepreneurial people as Africans. We are resilient. Doesn't matter what apartheid has done, what colonialism has done, what corruption has done, we are still standing and we keep moving. I learned a few things on this journey. I learned that the wars are always going to keep going. There's always war. There's always war. When you go to West Africa, they are fighting over who makes the best jollof. The Nigerians are fighting the Ghanaians, are fighting the Senegalese, are fighting the Gambians. And then me, when I finished going to every country in the continent, I hosted people from every country in South Africa. I flew in a jollof specialist to come and cook jollof properly. And she was from Gambia. The Nigerians wanted to kill me. They're like, we are offended now, we are offended. I mean, what's offending you? How you bring somebody here from Gambia? You know the best jollof is from Ghana and from Nigeria. So you can see, right? So there's always wars. I've also learned something. Sorry, my bishop is here. We've got my bishop here. Bakona bange bafundisi la. Bakona bange bantu besonto. Siyabingelela. So I arrive in Ghana, and as we arrive in Ghana, the first question you ask people is, how are you? By His grace, I'm doing well. By His grace. That's the first thing they do. Because Ghana and Nigeria, 95% believe in some God. Sometimes here in South Africa, we host a few of them called the Bushiris. And they come here and they find us, because some of us here, we are waiting for breakthroughs. Because Batu Mouth just tandaza into so longer. Just pray. And if things are not going well, what did they say? You don't believe. If you believe, you'll have a breakthrough. That's why they asked Bushiri, if you are such a great preacher, you can help people with breakthroughs, why don't you do it in Malawi? Because Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the continent. Our South Africans believe in miracles, but Malawians believe in God. One of the problems that we have because of religion, as Kenyatta said when he came to when Kenyatta regained the land of Kenya, he said when the missionaries arrived here in Africa, they taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened our eyes, they had the land and we had the Bible in our hands. That's why Rata Jesoma, we are poor. So we need to be very careful how we approach this religious thing, right? Of course, there's some good things that we can learn from other countries. I've been to Rwanda I've been to Ghana more than 100 times, and I've been to Rwanda maybe about 10 or so, or more maybe, actually more than 10 times. The interesting thing about Rwanda is that every third Saturday of every month, the people get together. They are obligated. You are not leaving your house between 8 and 11. Your job is to clean your neighborhood. Babies Umuganda. And that's why Rwanda is the cleanest country in the world. Definitely the cleanest in Africa. So if you look at some of the challenges that we have in our continent, particularly in our country, particularly here in South Africa, particularly here in Soweto and many other townships, you ask ourselves, what happened to our good culture and our good nature? We don't need government to tell us how to clean the streets. We don't need governments to tell us what we need to do to have good neighborhoods. We are good people. We used to be better, and we are better than this. Part of building a Soweto to make it an attractive place is to ensure that it is a place that is clean, a place that is hospitable, a place that everybody looks at and say, the people of Soweto, the people of Kimberley, the people of Khalishewe, they love their cities and their countries. So we have that responsibility to do that. So So let's talk about tourism. Tourism is interesting. I was the deputy chairman of tourism for South Africa, for South African tourism for 10 years. And I learned a few things in this space. One of the things that I've learned is some of the things that sometimes we're uncomfortable about the truth, that about 70% of the people who visit our country come from our own continent. But we don't judge them the same way that we judge people who come from Europe. Because when people come from Europe and they come to here and we take them to some of our favorite spots here, siyatatazela, because they come with dollars and cents and euros. But the people who are going to build this country and continent are the people from our own continent. Because 70% of the people who come here come from our continent. We love tourism for an important reason, because tourism does a few things. More than 5% of the labor of this country comes from tourism. They are the people who make sure that this country keeps going, contributing as much as 10%, or up to 10% at its best of the GDP of this country. So we know how important tourism is because you can see it when you go around this country, when you go around the city, when you go around the neighborhoods. Tourism builds our cities. So that's why it's so beautiful and important to have people like Tato and the rest of us here today to celebrate, to recognize, to support the importance of tourism in our country. 22% of the people who want to come to want to travel anywhere, they are looking for the sun. And 40% or 40%, 45% of the people who are travel, they are looking for nature. Folks, they are looking for us. We are perfect for the travelers. We are perfect because we offer them the sun, we offer them the nature, but we also offer them the culture they cannot replicate and find anywhere else. And that's why we are primed for success and we ought to be here. So one of the things I wanted to do, one of the things that I ran is Brand Africa. I started Brand Africa in 2009, and the purpose I started Brand Africa was to try and understand just how us as Africans are supporting made in Africa brands and goods and services and places. And I learned a few crazy things. I've learned over the last 15 years that only 20% of the brands that Africans admire come from Africa. In other words, there's an 80% rejection by people in this room of anything that is made here. We are not going to progress if we as a people do not support anything that we have created. That's why when we grew up, they used to say, charity begins at home. If you don't support the crafts from Soweto, if you don't support the art from Soweto, the designs from Soweto, and you want to go spend your money at the Diamond Walk, where none of the brands come from Africa, except from last week where Makosa launched their own shop there. None of the brands come from here. None of the money stays here. It all leaves our country. If you want to build Soweto, you must put Soweto first. If you want to build South Africa, you put South Africa first. I have no problem with international brands because I wear them as well. I support them as well. It's that duality that we should be comfortable with because we are living in that world that is open. That's why I can easily wear Hermes sandals and wear this Nigerian top and feel just world class. And that's what we ought to do. And that's what we ought to support. So when I did the study again this year, I asked, you might do the study in 32 countries around the world, around the continent, sorry. And I asked them the question, how many of you believe in Africa? I'm asking Africans. How many of you believe in Africa? I asked the Africans. Only 64%. Nitiha. So the other 36, what do they believe in? And because I've done this in so many countries, I can tell you that Basotho, any Basothos here? Basothos believe in America. And I was quite stunned. I was like, Basotho, our people next door, neighbor, what has America done for you? Trump is not thinking about you today. Trump is thinking about America. That's why Trump's tagline is, make America great again. He didn't say make the world great. He didn't say make Lesotho great. Trump says make America. Our job, we can also run the mega, make Africa great again. We're only going to make Africa great again if we believe in Africa as well as support Africa. We can't have 64% believe in Africa, but only 20% buy Africa. It does not make sense. It does not make sense. That's why next year, I'm on a major mission next year around the world to advocate for all the African, around the continent, for all the African countries and governments to put Africa first, to make sure that more than 50% of the goods that governments and public service procure are made in Africa. Because if we do that, we are creating opportunities for African entrepreneurs, South African entrepreneurs, for African businesses. Because as long as we don't have that obligation, the money will continue to leave our shores, our people will continue to be poor, we will continue to be indebted to the rest of the world. All of us owe IMF, we all owe the World Bank, we all have to buy crippled chicken from America because of AGOA, instead of supporting our own brands, our own products here. Only Lesotho, only Botswana and Eritrea don't owe anybody in the world. Small countries. We here in South Africa, claiming to be rich, claiming to be independent. We are not independent. You can go to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. You are going to find out there is no Molefe, no Ikalafeng, no Bani on that list. Because more than 80% of the brands which are listed there, none of them have got our names on them. But they've got our mouths. Because as Ali Mazrui said it so well, Africans consume what they don't produce and produce what they don't consume. That is irresponsible on our part. We are irresponsible Africans, and we have nobody to blame for our poverty, for our joblessness, and for our despair. We have only ourselves to blame. We are here today because we want to tell the rest of the world they must come to Soweto. They must come to Soweto because Soweto is not only the most, Soweto is not only the most recognized, I don't want to call it township, it's not only the most recognized city in Africa, it is the city that sets the tone for Africa. And if it's a city that sets the tone, it must set the tone from everything else, from the quality of the experience, from the quality of the products, from the quality of the experience people have here. All of us, Magoduga ase Kimberley na kupi, sila sonke for one good reason. And all of us, when we reference this town, we reference it through Soweto. Because even when we wanted to change the education system, the kids of Soweto are the ones who set the tone. If you want, okay, football, but we had a bit of a problem this weekend as the Chiefs people. So let us singakhulumi football, especially in the Chiefs, nabantu base Pitori. So let us not talk about football if Sunanje to be good friends when I live here. But one of the things that I did this year as part of the study is we established what are the most admired South African brands. The number one brand, most admired South African brand. I'm so incredibly proud to have announced them on the 11th of June this year, that Batu, a brand made by a kid from Alex or Sam or Temi, Alex I think, is the number one brand, ahead of MTN, ahead of the Woolworths, ahead of all those. How beautiful is it? Masibashalizana. The one other thing I wanted to do this year, I wanted to reflect on the 30 years, because some of us badalak Dallas based corner, so we've been around for 30 years at least. But when are you about 31? Yeah, Tuna? Yeah, just a bit. So I wanted to reflect on the brands which in the last 30 years have changed, have defined the narrative of South Africa, have reflected the trajectory of South Africa. The brands which we believe have been the most transformative and most admired, most important brands in South Africa. So when it comes to destinations, we looked at first events. We said, which events have defined South Africa? And people says, events, ICJ. ICJ, which took place at the beginning of this year, was interesting. Happened this year, but it was an important statement about South Africa and its chutzpah, South Africa and its ability to challenge the status quo. Because whether you believe in the Israel, Palestine, it doesn't matter. What matters is a country must be able to take a stand. Because if you stand for something, you know what you can defend. South Africa took a stand, and that's why RCJ was recognized. In the 30 years, though it happened this year, it spoke to South Africa as a country. I almost used a bad English word, as you know. We also look at those events, and FIFA 2010 was the one brand that we all know. Because what happened at FIFA 10? On FIFA's 2010, South Africa 2010, the World Cup, we stood for 1 minute for 6 weeks, and we sent a message to the world. And the message we sent to the world was, we are a capable country. We are a world-class country. We are a corrupt-free country. We are a safe country. If we can replicate what we did during 2010, this country will go further. This country will go back to what it should be. If we can replicate that safety that we afforded, the courtesy we afforded people who visited this country and the people who went around the country to different events, this country will be amazing. We then looked at the destinations. Then it says, which destinations over the last 30 years have defined South Africa as a world-class place with world-class destinations? They said, no question about it. Cape Town is an incredible city. We know that. Even though we know that. That Cape Town is a beautiful city. The parks, I had coffee with my friends this weekend, the chairman of St. Parks, Pam Yako, and we're like, Pam, people need to visit these destinations. We have incredible destinations, but because we don't go to these places. And we have those world-class. St. Parks was recognized. And city of Soweto, Soweto tourism was recognized among the 3 most admired destinations in South Africa. Let us give a hand to Soweto. I didn't want to make a lot of speeches today, but I just wanted to reflect on what it takes for us to be successful. And people always ask me that, whether it's internationally or locally, everywhere else, what will it take for Soweto, for South Africa, to go back as the #1 destination in the continent, to get more than 8 million visitors, to compete with Morocco and Egypt as the #1 destinations? I said, simple, and I used to say this to the minister. I worked under 3 ministers, from Hanekom to Mamoloko to Van Schalkwyk when I was in the tourism sector. And we always said the same things, and I must say it now. People will come here if they feel it is safe. People will come here if they feel this place is clean. People will come here if they feel that we are a welcoming people. Those are simple things that we can do. How do we make this place safe? We have to fight to make Soweto safe. I climbed the mountains in Uganda to go hang out with my family, the silverback gorillas. You can only find them in Rwanda, Uganda, and Congo. So I've done Rwanda and Uganda. And as I was on top of the mountains, there were policemen, and it said, tourism police. And I stopped the guy and I said, what is a tourism police? Why do you need a tourism police? He said, my friend, we here depend on the dollars and the euros and the rands that the tourists bring to our city, to our country, Uganda. We're not going to let anybody mess with that. That's how we have specialist tourism police. Tato knows his job on Monday. Tato's job on Monday, we're glad Begikal is no longer here, but Tato knows his job on Monday. Tato's job on Monday is to go see Commissioner, every week, go see the Commissioner of Police and say to the Commissioner of Police, if you want me to contribute to the success and the wealth of this country through Soweto, R1 specialist police that are responsible for making sure my people are safe here. Tato knows what he has to do on Monday. He's going to go from community to community in Soweto and going to tell the people in this community, if you believe in Soweto, you must protect Soweto. He's going to say, go learn from the Rwandan. Keep Soweto clean. We don't understand why we have to wait for our children to come and cover potholes. We know we've given up on the government from covering potholes. So Tinaban Pasa Soweto, we are going to create companies which cover potholes. We're going to pay them. They're creating jobs. They're creating a safe place for tourism. Our cars are not going to get new tires every week because Tato is going to make sure that the Sowetans go out every week, every month to clean our streets and to ensure the infrastructure is clean. You know what is Chabalala's cinema? A2, right? Say A2. Is it here? Is this where it was? I saw A2, but I didn't know if it's A2 because I came a couple of years ago and I was like, I can't believe we've done this to poor Chabalala's idea. Because Abu Chabalala, Abu Maponya, they had a vision for this country coming in Soweto. So I'm glad this place has been revitalized because I came here, I don't know what was living in these buildings because it used to be a cinema, right? I'm glad this has been revitalized. Don't let nobody come and bring that nonsense here. We're going to put police outside who are made of people from Soweto. We're creating jobs. We're going to clean this place made of the cleaners from Soweto. We're going to build the people who are going to sell here made of products made by Sowetans. Because if Sowetans think like that, Alexandrians think like this, Tembisans think like this, ultimately all of us will benefit from a great South Africa. I wish you all the best for the next couple of days. Tato, you've done an amazing job. Thank you for welcoming me here. It was my first place when I came to Johannesburg. It's the one place I'll always reference as a catalyst for a young boy from Kimberley who came in a taxi and left in an aeroplane. Thank you. So, over the last, so I know some people here don't know Instagram, but it's just the three people. I don't want to point them out. But for the rest of you who are on Instagram, you would have followed, oh, you already followed me. Nazo, and you'd have seen that I go from country, to city, to neighborhood. And when I arrive in those places, I know on the beaches, in a soft life. I don't do that nonsense. I arrive in every city. I am real with the cities. People come to Soweto, not to come and get a fake Soweto. They want the experience of the real Soweto. So every country I go to, so I post that stuff. So I've posted it for so many years, and people have said to me, when are you writing a book about these things? I was like, okay, let me become Umabalane for 2 hours. And then I wrote my book. It launched, the book got into retail on the 17th of October, but it was launched on the 23rd of October. It was sold out of the warehouse as of Friday. It's the #1 best-selling book in the country. But we all know why, because Lomtu on the cover is hot. And I think that's the only reason they buy the book. But please, the book is a book of it's our story, it's our book. It tells a story from my journey, leaving Kimberley, come all the way to here, to America, to over 120, to all the continents in the world. It's the story that speaks to all of us that our circumstances, our origins should not determine our destiny. That any one of us, it doesn't matter where we're born, who birthed us, what were the circumstances, we can always be what we dream. And this book is a book of an African dreamer, of a child who's traveled to every country in the continent. I only brought a couple of books. I bought them at exclusive on the way out. Sold out in Nicolway, sold out. Senton has got a couple new, sold out everywhere else. Is there an exclusive in Soweto? Panjani labantu. Tato, let's organize a book signing in Soweto. We're going to organize a book signing in Soweto for all these people. But for now, I've got just a couple. I've got a few books. My guy here, I don't know your name, but you drove with me. My driver here has got a few books. You can. How many have you got left, Tumelo? Tumelo, use all your fingers. How many? 6. Tumelo's cripple, he's got 6 fingers out of 10. So there's 6 books left. If you want to tap and pay, Tumelo's got it. I'm not making money out of it. Every single penny of the book, I'm donating to a trust for students who are learning how to build great African brands. Because when you build African brands, Africa wins.
Integrity. Please try to take a seat over there. Me and you we're gonna have a profound conversation. So please do come. Gentlemen, I need 2 roving mics.
You know, countries such as Germany, to give an example, 90% of companies in Germany are SMEs. And when they talk about SMEs, they're not talking about therefore, they've got to have a mental attitude. I'm going to ask a question and see how many people have got Android phones and it is important for us, I think.